Coming up next.
You want Philly food?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Always got to deal with a hater. Always got to deal with a hater, man. Always somebody got something to say. Today is Nick Wright. Nick Wright is wrong today, man. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Joe Castro, a.k.a. Philly Fresco, and it is Philly the podcast. So today I did a quick interview with my guy Devin Jackson of the Philadelphia Inquirer. That will be at the end of the video, so if you guys want to see that, there will be timestamps. If you want to skip my quick little rant about Nick Wright, you can go ahead and do that. That's fine. But look, I'm tired of all these. You can't win. You can't win when the Philadelphia Eagles were reaching for players because of fit, because of scheme fit, right? You brought up Jalen Reagor. You bring up other guys that the Eagles have done this with. They tended, this is past tense, to go with the guys that they felt they had on their big board, not the guys that were just surefire talents. A lot of Eagles fans were annoyed by it. A lot of Eagles fans hated that theory, hated that process, and now we've changed it. So what's the real problem? What's the real problem? It's funny that he brings up Nolan Smith because he wanted Nolan Smith. He wanted the Chiefs to take Nolan Smith. So why couldn't we? Why was it a bad pick for us to take Nolan Smith? He brings up Nolan Smith. He brings up Jordan Davis, who's one of the top 5, I believe, as far as run stopping goes. So I don't know how he's just okay. But he brings those guys up. He brings up Nolan Smith, who, yes, I mean, objectively, he did not have a great season. He brings up Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean was injured. How can we really sit here and say those didn't pan out? It just doesn't make sense. He had Jalen Reagor, and he just had to try and grab more. The Philadelphia Eagles are not, and they shouldn't be, especially Howie Roseman, should not be worried about a media pundit like Nick Wright, what he has to say. FS1, I don't watch a lot of TV. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. As you can see, that was a screenshot. I got it from Twitter sphere. So I don't really watch this stuff. If you do, then you probably are in the minority at this point because TV is starting to fail as it goes, and we are starting to see it. But look, it is so tiring that so much of the Philadelphia media is like this as well. I mean, Nick Wright obviously is not part of Philadelphia media. He's more of a national guy, but you see it in Philadelphia media. You see Dan Sileo, Jeff McClain. You see all these guys asking really weird stuff, saying really weird stuff, trying to find stuff to, oh, these guys don't like Terrell Owens, AJ Brown. He's like, come on. A lot of the stuff that people are saying, I get it. When the Eagles do great things, people don't like it. People don't like to see that. I get that. I totally get that. When the Cowboys do great things, I don't like to see it. When the Giants do great things, I don't like to see it. I get not liking another team. But when you are on a microphone, when you are in front of a camera, and you just sit there and lie out your rear end like that, Howie Roseman has learned from his mistakes. So to say that, oh, they only pick who the media said, that's bull right there. Okay. Quinyon Mitchell was a top talent. Everybody knew he was a top talent from a small school. Cooper DeJean obviously fell to the second round, but he was a top talent. And I hate to say it like this, but he's a white DB. So how often are people saying, oh, go get yourself a white DB? No offense to, and I'm not trying to be that guy, but realistically, these picks, then you get Jalen Hunt. Jalen Hunt was on a lot of people's radar, but to say that the media told him to do that, Daniel Jeremiah told him to do that. Daniel Jeremiah had us picking an offensive lineman. Daniel Jeremiah, prior to the draft, said, oh, I talked to people and they're trying to trade up for an offensive lineman. We didn't take an offensive lineman to the 5th round. We didn't take offensive linemen to the 5th round. So if we're listening to Daniel Jeremiah, if we're listening to the media, we're not doing a good job. Because all the mock drafts were wrong. All the thoughts prior to it was wrong. There were rumors that the Eagles were looking to move up for a cornerback. They didn't even move up. If they really, really, really wanted to move up for a cornerback, they had ample opportunities. Now, you could say once he got to like 15, 16, they just kind of hoped that he would drop. I mean, you could say that. But if they really were in the market to go ahead and do what Daniel Jeremiah or one of these media guys said, they would have traded up and got him. They didn't do that. Okay, the Eagles we are getting lucky. To a certain extent, we are getting lucky that players are dropping to us. Jalen Carter, nobody thought he would drop to the Eagles at number 10, I believe we were at. We ended up moving up to number 9, and we got him. We got him. That's not our fault. That's not our fault. We're not looking at what media are saying and saying, oh, they like Jalen Carter, so let's use a top 10 pick on him. That's not what's happening. Jordan Davis was not ever. I can't remember when that draft was going on, if he was ever connected to the Eagles. I don't remember him being. So a lot of this stuff that people are saying is just ridiculous. It's dumb, to be 100% honest. It's clickbaity. It's a lot of stuff that is adjectives that you don't really necessarily want to use when talking about media. It's getting sad. I'm gonna be real with you. It's kind of getting sad, but at this point, I expect it. So I think that it's hilarious that he said this. I think that, I'm probably giving him more clout than he deserves at this point, even though his show's way bigger than mine. But you know what I'm trying to say. You guys let me know, because I've seen so many people on Eagles side just bashing him, and I love it, because there was a point in time that we did not agree with Howie Roseman. So now that he's taking players that we all agree are, hey, this is a good pick, we'll see what happens. I'm happy with every single pick, not almost every single pick that he made this year. Whether or not they pan out, I feel that he took the right players at the right times. So, and he also was able to worry about the future with the trades. You can't have it both ways. All right. You can't say, oh, I think he's a good GM because he gets value, but he picks good players. I mean, why does he get A grades? Because he just picks good players. That makes zero sense, Nick Wright. You're a dummy. You're a dummy for that. You're the dummy of the day, whatever you want to call it. I just wanted to get that out. I wanted to get that off my chest. But like I said, we do have a very good show today. We have my guy Devin Jackson on the show, so I'm excited to have that going. You guys, let me know how you feeling about this, feeling about what he said. We were able to talk about a lot of guys on this team. We were able to talk about where he thought they fit in, what he thought their future projections were. So I love this interview. Please let me know what you guys think down in the comments. But other than that, we about to get into this, man. You guys, be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, join the family. I know all the good stuff, but let's get my guy Devin on. What is going on, you guys? It's your boy Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco, and it is another episode of Philly the podcast. So today I wanted to basically, look, I'm a sponge, right? I like to learn. I like to know new things. This gentleman to the left or right of me, depending on, I guess, how you're looking at it, this gentleman has helped me a ton. I was able to meet him at the Combine, I believe is the first time we met. Then saw him again at the Senior Bowl. A wealth of knowledge, has been every single place you can look. He knows the draft, and I wanted to get him on the show for a while, so I'm excited to be able to do it now. We got Devin Jackson of the Philly Inquirer. Devin, how is it going, brother?
Yeah, I'm going good. Everything's going good, man. Just you kind of get that post draft rush of, you want to double check and triple check and just kind of really build kind of that kind of knowledge and understanding of, why the Eagles went the way they went, and some of the other players they may have been able to take, and some of their draft strategy, and really kind of that information gathering period before, we obviously head into some of the summer workouts and OTAs and training camp in here in a few months. So, but I'm excited to talk about a little bit about the draft and where the Eagles ended up going and the different picks that they made and kind of get all into it, man.
Yeah, I mean, well, now Howie is done trading, I guess. I mean, he can, knowing Howie, he might still find a way to trade his old picks. At the end of the day, he's done trading. We've picked all of our picks for the past draft. When you look back at it, was there a surprise pick for you? I know a lot of people are looking at different guys like, I can't believe they got him. Was there a guy that you looked at and was like, I can't believe Howie took him, for better or worse?
I think I was more surprised that he took two corners, in the first two picks, because it felt like it was, to me, like Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. It just made sense that they were going to take one of those guys. Even Terry, you can throw Terry Arnold in that mix. So they were always, to me, going to be in the mix for the top three corners. But to get two of the top three corners in this draft class, I think was shocking, because it was one of those situations where, like, you're watching the draft, but you got a little bit of time, so you're like, oh, I'll go run to the store or something real quick, or go do something real quick. So I'm getting texts from a couple of my friends. They're like, yo, Devin, like, do you see what the Eagles just did? I'm like, I didn't see it until I parked and saw that it was Cooper DeJean that went 40th overall. So that was kind of a whirlwind in its own, and the fact that they took Quinyon Mitchell and it made sense. Like, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. He fits a need in his skill set makes a lot of sense. The connections with Nick Sirianni to Jason Candle and the Toledo defensive coordinator, like it was all making sense. Like a lot of connections there. But then to go back and get Cooper DeJean, I think I would say it was the most surprising pick. Because like when you look at like some of the like I know like Jalix Hunt like seemed like a surprising pick, but they brought him in for a top 30 visit. It was clear that they were interested in him. And then like some of the day 3 picks to me weren't super surprising. I will say Will Shipley going in the 4th round, like you just didn't hear anything about the Eagles being interested in him. So I would say that was just a bit like off the radar. Like no one really like saw that coming. Like we knew they were going to go running back at some point on day 3, but you just didn't think it was going to be Will Shipley. But I would say getting Cooper DeJean at 40 and double dipping in the secondary was a surprise, just based on their draft history and what they've done in the past.
Yeah, a very pleasant surprise for most Eagles fans. I was definitely happy. I'll say that. Now, you're looking at the first 3 picks. I feel like, and this isn't a negative towards any of them, but I feel like the only person without a question mark as far as where they'll play or how quickly they'll play is maybe Quinyon Mitchell. I mean, a lot of people have talked about Cooper DeJean possibly being a safety, possibly being a cornerback. He might be the water boy at the end of the day. There's so many different ways that we can go. Jalix Hunt, a developmental guy, but has a really high ceiling. When looking at Cooper and Jalix, how do you envision them working out for the Eagles? Where do you think that they'll fit into this Eagles defense?
Yeah, I think I'll start with Jalix. I just think he's going to be a guy that you kind of start to build with, and first you get him in a building and see where he's at development wise, and allow him to kind of grow and give him that space to grow. I think at least for him, he's probably going to see a lot of early snaps on special teams and kind of using that speed that he has, that athleticism, that safety background that he has as well, kind of in the special teams realm, to get him more comfortable. I kind of talked about yesterday that, you look at Sidney Brown, and even him coming in as a 3rd round pick, he wasn't a starter. He wasn't a guy that was getting a lot of snaps early on in the season, but as the season went along, he started to gain more and more snaps, and then eventually starting, last couple games before he tore his ACL. So I think you see kind of with and I think like you do it with both Cooper and Jalix, and the fact that you kind of get them early snaps on special teams, get them acclimated to the speed of the NFL game, kind of give them confidence. I think Cooper is obviously going to kind of factor in like sub package wise. So you see him in kind of those matchup dependent 3rd down situations. Maybe you throw him on the tight end, in his first couple of reps in the NFL. Maybe you throw him on 3rd down as more of a kind of middle of the field, take away the middle of the field type of player, and kind of let him use his instincts in that way. So I think both guys, to me, they're probably going to be more situationally based more than anything. But you also got to think about what the Eagles have at edge rusher right now. They have Bryce Huff already or ready to go. Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith is expected to take a leap this year and get a lot of snaps. So I think for Hunt, you're not going to see a lot of reps with him defensively early on. But I think if he's able to flash that pass rush speed and athleticism and what he showed at the college level, and he's able to bring that to NFL level and flash here and there, maybe make some flash plays in the preseason or in practice, I think that's when you start to see that confidence being gained. And he's going to get, his iron sharpened by 2 of the better tackles in the league, and Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson. So those reps I think are going to be really important. And same thing with Cooper DeJean. He's going to get a lot of reps against Devontae Smith, against AJ Brown, to really sharpen it. And then also going against Dallas Goedert as well, I think is going to make him a well-rounded defensive back. So I think with those guys, it's going to be about patience and seeing how quickly that they can pick up, obviously, on Vic Fangio's defense. And then from there, I think it'll be all uphill for there. And I think you should expect more from DeJean in year 1 versus what Hunt will bring in year 1.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are in a very lucky situation as far as, because you brought it up and it's 100% true. Iron sharpens iron, and we are lucky to have very good skill positions. We're lucky to have very good offensive linemen, so these guys are definitely going to get tested. And Jalix is a very good player. A lot of people I felt were surprised by the pick, but like you said, they did show a lot of interest at the Senior Bowl. He looked pretty good. I mean, he looks like a guy that could turn into a star. I really do believe that. But he does have some time ahead of him. So I'm excited to see his development. I think he's in the right situation. I think the Eagles will take care of him. But another concern for Eagles fans was wide receiver 3. A lot of people were they did somewhat address it in the free agency, obviously bringing on a couple of guys. And we brought on John Ross as well. We brought him in for an invite, so that's interesting. But I want to kind of key in on the guys we drafted between Ainias Smith and Johnny Wilson. Obviously, Ainias Smith was a guy that I really liked. I thought that he was going to be a very good player in the league. Excited for the Eagles to get him. Went a little bit higher than I thought he would, but still a good pick in my opinion. And then on the opposite spectrum, you got Johnny Wilson, who went way lower than I think a lot of people expected. Some people are saying he might be tight end. What are your thoughts on how these two young guys kind of fit into this offense? What do you think Eagles fans can expect from them?
Yeah, so I'll start with Nias. I think he's a guy that you just bring in the building and see what you can do with him and moving him around and getting him those manufactured touches. When you think about what he did at Texas A&M, he played some running back there. He played 4 games of running back in 2020. He played mostly as a slot receiver at Texas A&M. He also was a returner in the punt and kick return game, and was a dynamic punt returner, I should add. So Ainias, you're going to get a guy that you kind of have and you kind of can be creative with in the way that you use it. You don't have to just have those traditional, wide receiver, outside receiver, and then a slot receiver. You can like use them in those motions and kind of, especially in Kellen Moore's offense when a lot of pre-snap motion is going to be involved. You're going to see Ainias Smith moving across the line of scrimmage and trying to create those dynamic matchups, whether it's against linebackers, whether it's against safeties. So he has the speed and the capabilities and the route running to be able to do those things and the ability to run routes in multiple spots as well. You can throw him in the backfield and, run those choice routes, against linebackers. So I think you're with Ainias, you're getting kind of more of a package player where you can do some really fun things with him and be able to create opportunities for him in the passing game. You look at Johnny Wilson, I think he's so unique in the way that his body is built, and for a guy as big as him, he's pretty smooth route runner. I wouldn't say he's like one of those typical big body receivers that are a little bit stiff at the top of routes or just have guys glued to him. He can certainly pluck the football out of the air and have some good speed as well. He's not just a big guy that's going to win in a contested catch area. He can actually run those routes, come back to the football, make himself available in zone coverage. So I was really impressed with what Wilson brought to the table. Now, as it pertains to wide receiver 3, I think it's really going to be about how consistent can they be, because Johnny Wilson had a 12.8% drop rate. I think that's kind of speaks for itself. Like, he's a guy that he can get open, does everything right before the catch, but he just needs to secure the catch. You look at Ainias, he is a bit on the smaller side. He's 5'9", 190, and he's a guy that, is he going to be able to handle kind of that NFL workload? Is he going to be banged up? So I think with those guys, you have some potential there. You have some options. And the Eagles seem adamant, especially with Wilson, that he's going to be a receiver, not necessarily a tight end. Though I think you can, really do some fun things with him if he, continues to buy in and says, you know what, let me kind of be that flex kind of option where, like, I'm a big slot / maybe I'm kind of consider a tight end in certain situations. So I think it will be all about, how much he can embrace his role and, kind of be a matchup nightmare for defenses. Because, like, you think about, obviously AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, what they bring to the table, plus Dallas Goedert. You have those top 3 receivers there, quote unquote, but it's like identifying like 2 more options, 2 more reliable guys, and obviously they brought in Devontae Parker and Paris Campbell in free agency. So we'll see if either of those guys kind of step up and take that veteran role early on, but. You have to like the skill sets of Ainias and Johnny. They're very different players on kind of polar opposite ends of the spectrum, which should make it a fascinating camp battle. And I think from there, we'll kind of see what happens. But I would say I probably expect more from Anaya Smith early on than Johnny Wilson, just because I think Smith has a better path in terms of being used and creating those opportunities behind the line of scrimmage and near the line of scrimmage as well.
And you brought up punt returner, which I think is a very interesting topic because we have a whole bunch of guys now that can, really tote that rock when it comes to returning. You got Brenton Covey, you got Anaya Smith, you got, a bunch of guys. Is there anybody, I know this is kind of just random, but is there anybody you're looking at that's like, he might take that? I mean, Cooper can return punts too. So is there anybody on this roster that you're like, he might be a threat to Brenton Covey? Because Brenton Covey only does that one thing, even though he does it at a high clip. Is there anybody you think that maybe could take that spot?
Yeah, I think when you look at those people, those couple players, I would be hesitant to say Cooper DeJean is going to be a returner at the NFL level, just because I think he's going to be too valuable defensively to kind of put him out there and potentially risk injury in those types of situations. So to me, it really comes down to Will Shipley and Anaya Smith, and to me, I give the edge to Anaya Smith on punt return because he showed that a dynamic ability. Now I think Covey still has an inside track to win the position, and I think you keep him there because he was one of the better punt returners last year in terms of average per return. So it's not like he wasn't flipping field position or creating dynamic plays. Like, he still does those things, and Covey just hasn't found kind of that footing offensively, and I think that's what's going to make it tough for him is that do you carry just a punt returner continually on the roster? When Anaya Smith, could he do a little bit more offensively? Maybe, would Johnny Wilson maybe emerge potentially? So I think for him, it's going to be about not only just being that returner, but I think at this point you're going to have to show some ability on offense as well. So I think it's going to be a tough battle for him just because it's like you see when he's been able to do as a returner for the Eagles. He's been really dynamic, been really reliable as well. But then you bring in some guys that have that ability plus the offensive ability. And then you look at like the new kick return rules. I could see a world where it's Anaya Smith and Will Shipley, being back there. Boston Scott was the kick returner last year, and he probably doesn't return. And Will Shipley did a pretty good job as a kick returner at Clemson. I don't think he's the most dynamic in terms of like making people miss and being able to turn into that second gear to necessarily return kicks for touchdowns. But he's had a couple long kick returns in his career, and Anaya Smith obviously is that guy that can really score from anywhere on the field. So we'll see how it all shakes out, but I think Covey definitely has some competition as we get ready for training camp.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think that's one of the kind of underrated battles that people aren't really talking about because that's going to be a fun one to watch. Now, I think that this is a cause for celebration right now. This is the longest it's ever taken for me to talk about offensive line after a draft. So I'm happy about that. Shout out to Howie. But they did take care of some offensive line prospects. They did go and grab some guys. You've been talking about it on your Twitter. And I wanted to ask you, you look at these offensive linemen, whether it be the undrafted free agents or the guys that we took in the actual draft, who stands out to you? Are there any guys that you think may be a steal for the Eagles?
Yeah, when I look at Trevor Keegan, man, I look at a guy that I think they got a really solid player. A guy that, I don't think he's gonna ever blow you away with his play in terms of like making some crazy athletic plays or just being like this freak of an athlete, because that's kind of not what he is. But he's just a smart player. He's a guy that understands his limitations and understands how to manipulate those blocking angles to cut linebackers off, cut off defensive ends, defensive tackles, and really get his blocks secured as well. They use him a lot in pulling across the line of scrimmage and pulling out in front of the play. And he did so many nice things and kind of in that realm, in that department. Then he's a guy that just brings kind of that nastiness, that attitude, kind of that plays with that edge that you really like to see in offensive linemen as well. A guy that wants to get you on the ground and clear out space for his quarterback and clear out pockets. And you need that type of player. You need a type of player that wants to get, in the trenches and get in the face of opponents and have that passion and intensity that's needed to be on the offensive line. And frankly, they needed depth at guard. Like Sua Opeta just wasn't great last year. When Cam Jurgens was hurt. And even when Landon Dickerson missed a game here and there. So it's like, even if Keegan is not the starter and Steen does end up starting, you do need depth at guard, in the interior offensive line, and I think he provides that ability to play potentially both left and right guard, even though he played mostly left guard at the college level. So I think that was an important get in terms of solidifying the interior offensive line. Obviously, they signed Matt Hennessy in the offseason. He's played both center and guard. So he expects to probably be a depth piece, at least starting out as a center / guard, but probably behind Jurgens when it's all said and done. But be able to get Keegan in the 5th round, getting some good value with him. I think he's a guy that probably was going to go 4th, 5th round anyway, but I feel like they got pretty good value and added a guy that can at least compete for a starting spot, if not solidify a backup role.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm excited to see. When I saw some pictures of him, I was like, "This guy looks like an absolute maniac." I'm cool with this. I like this. Whenever you got the eye paint just dripping, you an Eagle to me, man. So I'm excited about that. I think a lot of Eagles fans are as well. The offensive line always, staying healthy is key, really. But I'm excited to see what happens with that guard and center position because so many options. Now, the last guy I want to talk to you about is a guy that I think we all knew was going to be a Philadelphia Eagle at the end of the day. And I'm happy that he is. It was an emotional moment, I think, for a lot of people that remember his father. But Jeremiah Trotter Jr. coming into the Philadelphia area now, going to be under a microscope. I don't think people realize how much scrutiny this kid is going to probably face because I know Philadelphia fans. It is what it is. If he messes up, you're not your father. You're not. They're going to talk that junk. People think I'm a hater because I brought up some of his negatives, but where did you have him graded? How do you see Jeremiah Trotter, and what do you think he can bring to Philadelphia?
Yeah, I'm as a day 3 player. I just felt like, when you look at what the modern NFL is and everything that it comes into, he's the opposite in the fact that he's an old school linebacker. Like, we talk about like his dad playing with the Eagles and whatnot. I mean, he literally embodies, the way that his dad played, and a guy that is undersized but has great instincts and knows where to be, and is able to make plays as in coverage. Everything about him is instincts and being able to know what's coming at him and whatnot. And the athletic limitations are what they are. You can't get around that. But the linebacker position is unique in the fact that you have to have instincts. Yeah. You have to be able to read plays. And there's really no counteracting that. Even if you're not the fastest guy, if you know what's coming and you know where to be and how to stop it, you can overcome some of those limitations. And that's what he brings. He's a guy that I don't think is ever going to be, thought of as like a premier linebacker in the NFL, but he's a guy that is going to be really solid, be there, make the plays when they're needed to be made, and bring kind of that passion and intensity that you need at the linebacker position. You have to be, and luckily for me, I got to talk with both junior and senior, in the past and doing stories on them. Senior always talks about bringing passion to your teammates and bringing life into your teammates. And that's what he did at Clemson and what he'll probably do with the Eagles as well. I think when you look at the struggles of last season, the Eagles didn't really have that dog mentality at linebacker. Like a guy that I'm going to make a play and get everyone fired up, even if our backs are against the wall. And he has that type of mentality. I think it's going to fit in nicely to what the Eagles are accustomed to having at the linebacker position. And a lot of people have talked about, what a successful year or successful career looks like. And a lot of people point to like a TJ Edwards what he was able to do as kind of an undersized guy, but had great instincts and recognition, play recognition, and what he did for the Eagles in route to a Super Bowl appearance. So I think with Jeremiah Trauer Jr., the I think the expectations need to be tempered because I don't think he's a guy that's going to win a starting spot early on, and maybe a year or two before he does. And I don't think they're expecting him to start early on. They signed Oren Burks in free agency, Devin White, obviously Nakobe Dean is coming back. So and then you add in Zach Bond in the mix. So they have options at linebacker, and you shouldn't expect him to start early on, obviously. But Howie Roseman always talks about keeping guys local and kind of retaining home talent. And I mean, there's no bigger home talent than Trotter Jr. Grew up in the backyard, watched his dad play for the Eagles, played in the Philly area. I mean, he went to St. Joseph's Prep with Marvin Harrison Jr. And did all those things, and now he's an Eagle. So it's a great move to have him here, and I think it shows you can end up where everything started, and things can go from there. But being able to talk to and knowing both junior and senior, I think Jeremiah Trauer Jr. is going to fit in nicely, and he's going to bring the type of mentality that the Eagles need on defense. And frankly, I think at some point in his career, maybe in the next year or two, he's going to be a big contributor. Now, do I think he'll play alongside Nakobe Dean as a kind of every down player? We'll see. I think their skill sets are too aligned to necessarily be the greatest pairing, but maybe it can work. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. And if you ever talk to Junior again, right behind me, I have a senior's autograph. So if Junior wants to take a spot on that sign, you know what I'm saying, he's more than welcome to. Last question I want to ask you, Devin, because I know you're a college guy. I know you're a college football guy. And obviously the new NCAA football game is coming out in a couple months, and they just announced that they're gonna have 3 different cover athletes. It's gonna be 3 different players from 3 different teams, 3 different positions. You are already, I know, as much as you say that you're looking at now, and you're I know you got your eye on what's going to happen next year. If you had to pick 3 players, who would be your cover athletes for next year's game?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go. The first one, I'm gonna go a guy that we both love in Abdul Carter from Penn State. I think keeping the tradition alive at wearing that number 11 and being frankly the best player on Penn State's defense probably largely over the last 2 years, despite having first rounders and early round picks. I think he's deserving of kind of that moniker. He's opted into the game. I got to talk to him after Penn State spring game, so he's definitely eligible for that. Obviously, he has to clean up some of the off-field stuff that's been going on with him, but I really like him as a player. I think he's a guy that can be one of the best players in college football, if not the best. He certainly has the talent to be, and now he's moving to edge rusher, so it's really exciting to see where he's going to be and how it all ends up. So I would go with him as an option. I would go with Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. Look, I know everyone's kind of like tired of Deion and everything that's happening with Colorado, but he had our attention. He captivated us in the first half of the season, even though Colorado ended up not finishing with a winning season. We still needed to watch every Saturday to see what he was going to do. He was in the Heisman race and what he was able to do in kind of, uplifting, I would say, most of the people on that team is probably never going to sniff the NFL. So to be able to have our attentions like that, even if it's against opponents that aren't necessarily the greatest. I mean, he went toe-to-toe with Caleb Williams of USC, obviously number 1 pick this year. Colorado State, I mean, they have Mo Kamara on Colorado State, who went on to be drafted, and he was terrorizing him. He still was able to make plays later in the game. So I really like Shedeur Sanders and what he brings to the table, and just how good he is. He's such a really good player, and we'll see how high he goes in next year's class. But to me, I think he figures in to be one of the top quarterbacks entering next year. So I will have him as my second one. The third one, I will have Damian Martinez, who went from Oregon State and transferred over to Miami, running back that I really like. Every time I watch an Oregon State or teams going against Oregon State, he's doing some really good things as a runner, ability to make people miss in the open field, and just how dynamic he is of a runner as well. Can break off chunk runs, can win, at the line of scrimmage with his own power. And now he's joining Miami, and Miami's going to be a fun team to watch this year, even if they don't pan out. They have Cam Ward, who transferred over from Washington State. Now you add in Damian Martinez. They have some really good receiving core as well. So I don't know if Miami ever actually pans out and wins the ACC, but I'll definitely be watching them and watching Martinez and seeing what he does down at the U.
Yeah, next year is going to be a lot of fun for college football with the college game coming out. Nobody's going to do mock drafts anymore. They're just going to do it on NCAA football. It's going to be fun. But I appreciate your time so much, Devin. Like I said before, the wealth of knowledge that you have is amazing, to be honest with you. You've been doing a great job over these past couple of years, so salute to you. It was great meeting you. Great to have you as a friend. But before I let you go, let these people know where they can find you, and where you're at, what you do, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter or X, I guess, at reald_Jackson. A lot of my work is on theinquirer.com. Most of the picks, I would say, I have a film breakdown of. I did ones of Quinyon, Cooper, Jalix, Anais, and I'll have one coming out on Trevor Keegan and Dylan McMahon from NC State. As well to kind of round out a little bit, and then later this week I'll be doing Johnny Wilson as well, putting him under a microscope, seeing what advantages he can give the Eagles and what he can fit. So I'll have all those sometime later this week, and getting all that finished up, and yeah, man, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, man. Everybody go follow my guy. Seriously, everybody go follow my guy. Amazing work. I would not lie to you guys. You guys know that. But other than that, man, I appreciate everybody that's tuned in. Be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe. But y'all know what it is, and y'all know what it's going to be. It's Fly Eagles Fly. And we are out here. Peace!
Everywhere, this is for
Yeah.
you.
Fly Eagles flying on the team. Touchdown. Time to get Jalen this ring. You don't really want to start a thing. This a Bird Gang Nation, baby. It's a Philly thing. Hater, and you looking like you type trash. I'm just here calling on Philly the podcast. And we can call a man dog or watch Miles score off the handoff. Rest of the division, your man soft. Jackson like Sean, hunting like Randolph. Season head, early time to do him in. Your boy Philly Fresco. Thanks for tuning in.